them man are killing it. On the low, but you know that you're killing it.
Yes, respect family. So everybody's been talking about the Diddy lawsuit, got the whole industry by storm. So many different tangents. Every day there's something new. You know, first it was a couple of weeks or a couple of months back, actually, maybe now, where it came out with Cassie. And since then, we've had women, men, all sorts coming forward with different things to say in regards to that. I was going to touch on it, but, you know, maybe I will at some point, but it's you know, been touched on so much in different forms. And I came across this story on Twitter from Ian Carroll. So let's check this out. It says the Diddy lawsuit opens up a whole new angle on Michael Jackson's death and life story. The more you look into the music industry, the more you see this weird pattern. Everybody who steps out of line and starts speaking out about how artists are treated, about how executives manipulate the industry and abuse their power, every one of them are slandered, smeared, and sometimes even suicided. Probably all coincidence though. And it says, was Michael Jackson framed? So I don't know if this is inferring that they feel as though Diddy has, you know, spoken out or something, but let's check this out and then I'm gonna give you some thoughts on it.
Back on the table. P. Diddy's sexual blackmail ring.
Okay, let's see if we can actually get some audio. It sounds super quiet.
So this new lawsuit just came out that shows tons of evidence that Michael Jackson conspiracy theories are back on the table. P. Diddy's sexual blackmail ring puts Michael Jackson's whole life story in a whole new light. So this new lawsuit just came out that shows tons of evidence that P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, has been running a sexual blackmail operation very much like Jeffrey Epstein, but in the rap and music industry for basically 30 years. And in that lawsuit, we learned that his head of security while he's running the sexual blackmail ring is this guy named Fahim Muhammad, who before working for Diddy was the head of security for Michael Jackson when he was only 21. And he was one of the first people on the scene when Michael Jackson died. And before we go to Michael Jackson, the most important part of the Diddy case to bring across is the fact that the record executives at the very top knew what P. Diddy was doing. They were attending the parties with underage girls where they were spiking drinks. They were deeply involved in Diddy's personal life, and all evidence points to them supporting his operation, or at the very least turning a blind eye to it. So let's revisit Michael Jackson, the king of pop, knowing what we know today. Starting in 1993, Michael Jackson was repeatedly accused of inappropriate things with children. And most of us eventually took that story and were like, okay, that's messed up. Michael Jackson's a bad dude. Without necessarily taking into account the way that the press had been smearing him in really messed up ways for years. And then a bunch of documentaries were made before and after his death, smearing him left, right, and center. But the Diddy lawsuit directly points out and reminds us that the people that own the record companies also own the media publishing businesses that can print the tabloids. They have close relationships with the people that own the newspapers and the magazines that print these stories, that make these movies. That's how they offer record contracts to people and then get them to the top of the charts right away.
Yeah, I'm just going to pause there. I think you're making some points there. I think a lot of people will be familiar with aspects of how the industry works. And, you know, it was sort of like, especially pre the internet exploding how it did, you know, back in the day, you was really at the scrutiny of the execs and the label heads, especially when it comes to press and media and them using and leveraging their contacts. I do believe Gene Deal told a story in regards to Diddy where he said he had some kind of issue with Wendy Williams back in the day, and he let it be known, you know, either she goes or he goes. And, you know, by the time they got back to New York, she was fired. And we hear a lot of different stories about people just over the years having their stories silenced, whether it be in the music industry, whether it be in Hollywood, where, you know, he's speaking about cases like Epstein and different people. What was the other guy? Weinstein, and a lot of these other guys. A lot of the times, stories have been squashed by the media and, you know, people at the high level. But let's check out the rest of what he got to say.
That is, if they play ball, if you know what I mean. But when you actually look into the evidence, the FBI were investigating Jackson for 10 full years, and they presented no evidence of criminal conduct on Jackson's part. The files have been declassified and you can view them yourself. They include a raid of his home where they confiscated all electronics. This is their ID number that you'll see. We're talking computers, hard drives, cell phones, where they say the amount of gigabytes. And then following are pages like this where they have the ID of the different devices and they all say nothing. Literally. They all say this. They found nothing. But that didn't stop the press from running made-up stories about how secret FBI files revealed that Jackson had paid millions in hush money to dozens of boys he had abused, despite the FBI files directly negating that statement. And to be clear, Jackson was a weird dude. He grew up in one of the most effed up environments imaginable. He had basically no father figure and was kept from his mother. And the press has repeatedly tried to make him seem even weirder to us. But sometimes...
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, they go with that narrative a lot that Jackson had no father figure. He did, Joe Jackson. He was around, whether people want to agree with how their family dynamics or relationship was. Michael was very aware of his father, Joe Jackson. And Joe Jackson actually played a huge part in building the Jackson 5.
Sometimes they publish articles trying to make him seem like Wacko Jacko, which is super racist. We'll get into that another time. But they actually wind up just showing his humanity, like how he's shocked by the real world because he doesn't understand it. In this article, they explain how when he first saw a homeless person, he was like, "What's that?" And his driver had to explain to him what a homeless person was. And he was like, "Holy shit." And he made them stop the car and he watched for a while, then gave the woman $300. And then when they saw that a man that she was with was about to try to take it from her, Jackson went and gave him $300. And she was crying and said that he'd saved her. And then he spent the rest of that day driving around giving out $100 bills to homeless people, saying how it's just amazing that the world could be so messed up. He sang about this kind of stuff all the time. In that same article, they also confirmed that he likes women, not underage ones, and he had a secret girlfriend that he was seeing on the side but keeping it away from his kids and would always be back before they woke up. So they branded him as Wacko Jacko early on and just like totally annihilated his public image. But what you might not have known is that that is a direct reference to a monkey, a fighting monkey from an old, who was like a cartoon character basically. His name was Jacko Macaco. And for the longest time...
Wow, so you see, that's one thing I didn't actually notice, or I didn't actually know or weren't aware of, that they had this monkey that they was poking fun at Michael Jackson with. It's interesting because I just came across a clip, which I believe they say was from 1999 or 97. It could have been in South Africa. I'll see if I can share it at the end of this video with Michael Jackson. And it looks like he had just come off the plane and was greeted, but he was greeted by a bunch of people all wearing blackface, kind of, you know, imitating. Looks very eerily similar to that monkey somewhat. So he did become a figure of ridicule to certain people within the Western world and, you know, a victim of that.
Time you could actually buy Jacko monkey dolls. And we could talk about how all the boys that accused him of things actually were in the middle of launching really successful entertainment industry careers when they made those allegations about what had allegedly happened to them when they were tiny children, despite having previously gone on their stand and under oath saying that nothing had ever happened. But that would just be a waste of time. One of the far more interesting and relevant claims is that Michael Jackson said a lot of things about Jewish people, particularly later in his career. And then he was smeared to all hell and back as an anti-Semitic Nazi, except that when you search YouTube for the actual original phone call recording where he called Jews leeches, YouTube won't let you see it. You can't find it. Instead, they feed you a bunch of videos that are of this other phone call that seems to be his doctor that allegedly killed him, calling him when he was in the midst of heavy sedation and getting him to talk on the phone in slurred speech about how shitty his life was while he was completely fucked up on drugs that his doctor that was talking to him probably knew he was high on.
Yeah, I mean, they often use a lot of tropes within the industry and the media, especially when it comes to slandering people. I don't actually recall ever hearing anything of Michael Jackson disregarding or disparaging Jewish people. I did hear him speak out against Tommy Mottola as an individual. And, you know, even in some of his music and his songs, primarily, They Don't Care About Us, where he spoke about different races and stuff. He didn't just pick out one. So I think if people would be hard pressed to find an example of that. And if you guys are familiar with it or anybody knows anything like that, let me know, send it in. So far, drop any thoughts in the comments what you think of this video. I know it's slightly gone off from the original point of Diddy. However, it's still relative, just looking at how the industry works and Diddy being a huge, major cog within that system.
I don't know, just feels like a smear job to me. But when you search it on Twitter, you can find those videos no problem. Just saying. And that's not because X supports anti-Semitic content. That's because X allows you to get to primary sources. Because if you want to know how history happened, you need to be able to access the primary sources. And yes, Jackson did say that the Jews are, probably referring to the Jews in the music industry, are like leeches and that they took everything from them and that they did it on purpose. But
well, I'm still not so sure about that. I'd like to hear an actual quote. This guy says that Michael Jackson said that, but I don't really feel like going on Twitter now to look for a clip that could be doctored. But if he's using it in his video that he's put together, he should actually play the clip or show a quote from it, as opposed to just saying that that's what Michael Jackson said. But I mean, you guys might know more. If you do, let me know in the comments.
when you look into those allegations or those insults, you realize that because of his will that was probably fake and filed right before his death. So the will was signed on July 7th in Los Angeles by 3 witnesses. But Jackson's family pointed out that he was in New York that day, and there's video proving it. So they changed their story. But the witnesses definitely saw it, and it was just in New York. So anyways, because of this will, John Branca was put in charge of his estate, which included his net worth of $230 million, but far more importantly, his 50% share of Sony ATV worth $750 million. Yes, he was taking on Sony. He was going after the hand that feeds him. And when you look into John Branca, in 2003, Jackson fired Branca because he was siphoning money out of Jackson's accounts in collusion with Sony Music CEO Tommy Mottola and funneling it through a bunch of offshore accounts in the.
Well, that's why I did mention, Michael Jackson, he did call out Tommy Mottola as a devil. Said he is the devil.
Caribbean. John Branca is Jewish, and Tommy Mottola is also Jewish. Plus, Tommy Mottola married Mariah Carey partway through his life when she was a young woman. He was an old man. And there are other allegations about that whole situation you can look up on your own. In the first video I made about the Diddy case, where I broke down the whole thing, I went through a whole bunch of music executives that are involved in that case or that come about when you start looking into it. And every single person that I showed in that video that was not black was Jewish. Because whether you like it or not, whether you want to call people names about it or not, the vast majority of the power in the music industry is controlled by Jewish men. Another good example who we have not talked about yet is Lou Pearlman, who is famous for the boy bands NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. Not trying to say that all Jewish people are bad. People are just people. They make their own choices. But in the music industry, there are a fuckload of Jewish men that are doing shitty things to people. And in a few other industries too, when you think about it.
Well, like he said, there is some questionable people within the industry from different backgrounds. Clive Davis being cited as one of them. Do you guys think it's coincidental that they may be purport to be Jewish? We can't actually say if they follow the actual faith the right way or correctly, so we won't, slander them for what they profess to be. They may not actually be the true practitioners of that faith. But let's get back to the end of this, and then I'm gonna close out with our final thoughts
about it. We'll make another video about that. For most of Jackson's career, his head of security was Bill Bray, who was his mentor and basically his father. And the two were extremely close. Bill ran his security until he was 70 when he retired, and Jackson continued to pay his medical bills until he died at age 80. This is a letter that Michael Jackson wrote to Bill that is both really touching and really enlightens you as to the state of Michael Jackson's education and his perspective on the world and his life story. Pause if you want to read that. But then once...
Yeah, so he says, let's see if I can pause that right quick. Bear with me, guys. Yeah, I'm struggling to read that handwriting. You can see I wear spectacles, but I'm going to take a screenshot. What I'll do is I will post it in the community tab if anybody wants to read it. But I can't swear to its accuracy. But I do actually want to read it myself because he just made some inference to it being a testament to Michael's educational level or something. But let's check it out. Let's check out the rest.
World and his life story. Pause if you want to read that. But then once Bill retired, Jackson was then protected by other security people that came and went. And he wound up with this guy who has direct connections to Diddy's sexual blackmail operations, who was directly complicit in covering up crimes for Diddy and covering up murders, covering up drug use, prostitution, human trafficking. This is the guy that was protecting Michael Jackson the day that he died.
Well, I mean, you know, he's made quite a few connections, but he initially stated that this guy's name was something Muhammad, which would lead me to believe that he's a Muslim, not a Jew. So I don't get the connection he's making in terms of the Jewish people in the industry. You know, I guess there are also Muslims that could be complicit with these ills, if that's what he's trying to point out. But I just wanted to make that point because this guy's name is Muhammad, so I don't actually think that he is a member or practitioner of the Jewish faith.
The day that he was overdosed on drugs, after he was probably already asleep, and the only witnesses, there were no witnesses to the crime. I'm honestly kind of surprised that this guy never got checked into as a suspect. I'm not trying to make any allegations, I'm just saying anyone can inject a dude with lots of propofol. So, knowing what you know now about the entertainment industry, about the world, about how this all works, about Israel, I suggest you re-examine the story of Michael Jackson and you re-listen to some of his lyrics. I bet if I include the song, they'll take the video down for copyright as a way to silence this video, but you should probably re-listen to the lyrics for They Don't Really Care About Us.
Well, I mentioned that they don't really care about us myself not too long ago, and as I said, it doesn't just mention one group of people or anything like that. It's speaking holistically to people in powerful positions in the world, and I always took it as, you know, people often say Michael Jackson, oh, he sold out, he went black. You know, I took it as him being a black man, looking from a black man's standpoint and saying that oftentimes how we're treated within the world, there is this lack of care, but he also made it relatable to not just black people, to other people who may be oppressed or going through those kind of conditions.
And if you find the censored version, you should probably find out what the words that they censored are. And you know, looking into this whole story of Michael Jackson, the one thing that I couldn't stop thinking about is, man, that sounds a lot like Kanye West. But that's probably just a coincidence, right?
Yeah, guys, so let me close this out. I think he actually reached in with some of the points in there, but in terms of looking at the industry, we're living in a time now of great revelation where all is going to be revealed and a lot of things are being revealed. So when we think of the devilish aspect of the entertainment industry, this isn't something that's new. This is something that people have spoken about for years. I guess that a lot more of it now is being brought into light. So when we look at the Diddy situation and everything that's going on with that, I guess now it's led people to dig and look at other stuff. And my thing is, I know some people already have issues with different groups. So some people will use this as an opportunity to come at Jewish people or Muslim people or different groups. So that's one thing that we've got to be careful about. But, you know, when we're looking at the facts of everything, we got to condemn wickedness and ills for what it is. Right is right, wrong is wrong. In terms of the Diddy situation, I'm sure that this isn't the last that we're going to hear of it, especially as these trials and these cases unfold. We've seen a video go viral recently with the woman who said that she was allegedly shot by Diddy himself at the Club New York shooting all those years ago, to which Shine unfortunately took the fall. So yeah, the industry is filled with a lot of corruption, guys, a lot of ills. You might have seen some of the videos I put up recently just speaking about how fake and toxic certain aspects of the game and the industry is and the types of people you have to deal with. And that is at a small level or a micro level in comparison to a macro level. But what do you guys think? Let me know any thoughts in the comments. We're going to be back with some more hip-hop talk, exploring the industry, some more music news. Hope everybody has a great weekend and their week has been blessed so far. Your boy finds a new child back online, back that music group. Peace.
but you know that you're feeling it. Them man are killing it. On the low, but you know that you're feeling it. Them man are killing it. On the low, but you know that you're feeling it. Them man are killing it. On the low, but you know that you're feeling it.